Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great day, great afternoon, great night, just a great time in general when you're watching this. Today's video, I wanted to talk about my Boy Scout experience, my thoughts on the Boy Scouts / Girl Scouts, honestly, and crew, which is the kind of like young adult version of Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. It's co-ed. And I wanted to also share a story about, the famous Boy Scout camp, Philmont. Yes, I went there. If you already know what Philmont is or heard about it, honestly, it is way better than it's described as. Trust me. I used to be kind of like not so keen on it. Then I went there and I've been trying to go back ever since. But since COVID, they no longer allow non-Boy Scout people, and it's bullshit. It's not fair. You have to go there only for day trips, and it's bullshit. You should be able to stay there because, not gonna lie, most of their stuff can and still be done by people in a day trip, so why can't I also hike there? Like, it's stupid. Trust me, it's stupid. Why can't I also camp there, not hike there? So, I want to talk. So my beginning experience to Boy Scouts was with my brothers. Both of my older brothers were really keen in the Boy Scouts. My oldest brother became an Eagle Scout. My middle brother threw away his Eagle Scout shit, and I got finally to a point to where I started telling my dad no, because it very much became that this was more about him than it ever was going to be about me, and I already knew that, but I also was just fucking over it. It's funny how if you pay a lot of attention to how I grew up, and especially with this, that I basically knew at a very young age that a lot, if not most things I was doing was really just because my dad wanted me to do it. And even though it would be claimed that I wanted to do it, 9 times out of 10 I did not want to fucking do it. And around this time is when I was just like, now I'm gonna start saying no and you're not gonna like it. So my Eagle Scout never happened, but I did get to Life Scout, and honestly, I really enjoyed being in Boy Scouts outside of everything that didn't have to do with the organization itself. Just all the little events we did and little activities we did, those were fantastic. But as soon as it came to the architecture or the rankings or anything like that in Boy Scouts, it was very much a piece of shit. And honestly, you gotta know more about Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and the foundation that it kind of started on, and then you can very much tell that it just became way more of money making, if not just a way to push your kids off instead of actually raising them. But they wanted to claim it gave you all this cool special shit for school. And yes, I would totally agree that it does give you those things a few fucking years ago, but nowadays, absolutely not. If you're a fucking Eagle Scout, or unfortunately Girl Scout people, I do not know the quote-unquote final form of Girl Scouts, but I do know that your shit is arguably looked down way more than Eagle Scout is now, and that's disgusting. Honestly, the more you think about why they're actually divided is all because they wanted boys and girls to be separate, even though they basically do the same shit. I'm not even joking, I've known more Girl Scouts to go camping than I ever did when I was in Cub Scouts, or Brownies, it was so ridiculous. The amount of things, even while I was growing up, I actually 9 times out of 10 wanted to do Brownies or Girl Scouts more because they were doing arts and crafts and stuff like that, and I'm a very creative person, so I wanted to go and do that. I do like being outside, I do like camping and all that other stuff, but I did that already with my dad. So it was very funny to me that he took my angst against it as me not enjoying it, when in fact the main reason I didn't enjoy it is because I'm like double dipping into camping. Instead of doing my hobbies I would have enjoyed more in Girl Scouts. One of the big things that finally turned me off from Boy Scouts, even while I was in it, was, so I joined about 11 or 12 is when you get in. I think 12 is it, or it's 13. I just know that 14 is when you can get considered for this thing called the Arrow of Light, and there's this whole ceremony you have to do and stuff like that. I was in this for years. I only finally got put on the quote-unquote ballot once. Twice, technically. Once when I was younger, and once when I was older. And I'm still pissed off a little bit to this day that I never got put into it, but kids that were younger than me, that were doing way worse shit than me, and getting in trouble and doing all this other stuff, were the ones that got it versus me who, like, the amount of things I did in Boy Scouts that actually kept our troop together. If you also knew me from Boy Scouts, feel free to tell people how much I liked keeping the camp together, and I liked making sure everyone was okay and taken care of. That's one thing I never really, quote unquote, got to flex to anyone, is how much of a great camper I am outside of like church people I knew, or literally Boy Scout people, because I actually liked going out into the wilderness and doing a whole bunch of shit. I wanted to be the quartermaster, and that was something else that was taken from me for years. Everyone, and I mean everyone that was incapable of keeping care over our shit, was constantly given the position of quartermaster. There's a couple of different titles and positions. I don't remember all of them, and I don't even think they're relevant anymore, because I'm pretty sure most Boy Scout and Girl Scouts, they don't even have their hierarchy anymore, because everyone's got to be the same, instead of we mutually lead each other as if that's a crazy fucking thing anymore. I wanted to be the quartermaster because I already knew where everything was in our trailer that we took with us the moment I started engaging with it. And you only got to do that once you were older, because they need to make sure they could trust you with the propane tanks and stuff like that, which makes sense. So once I was finally allowed to do it, no one wanted me to do it, even though I was actually quartermaster assistant very quickly, because I had to help people remember where shit was. And finally, once I finally became it, literally my last 2 fucking years, which pissed me off so much, because we kept breaking shit, we kept losing shit, we couldn't find shit. Every one of the older kids would get yelled at, and then I would end up finding it later because someone previously packed it wrong. Like, literally, if I would miss a camping trip, I almost had to start going to every single one, which I almost think was already a requirement for the quartermaster in general, is I almost just had to start going to every single camp, because if I wasn't there and I had my assistant, who I thought I could trust, he would literally fuck up the whole entire trailer, and I would have to spend a weekend, get a bunch of the other guys together, and it would be a pain in the ass to do that, and clean out the fucking trailer and put it back together. We did it so many times that the last time I straight up told everyone, take a fucking picture, and we did. Everyone got a picture on their phone, because I was like, if this happens again, I'm going to stop coming. I know that's like dumb to threaten as like a young kid and stuff like that, but the thing is, no one already wanted to take care of it, and I basically was the only one doing it, so the adults actually had to start stepping in to do this, which is ridiculous. It basically, as the years went along, as we were getting older, they actually respected us less, so we actually had to go get the adults more, which is ridiculous. I think only our last year is when we finally started getting real respect back, because the adults basically were like, hey man, you're the one that needs to be doing this, stop it. And so we ended up doing a trip where we managed to actually get all the parents to be okay with it, where we got all the young guys together and we straight up told them they got a trailer and we got a trailer, and we spent it was 1 week, it was either a week or a weekend, but it was long enough that we had, I think it was middle of the day, if not the second night, we had the younger guys crying to us for help because they didn't know where anything was in the trailer, and we had all ours together and we were all set up. We were set up the night we got there within the first 30 minutes and was having dinner while these kids were all stuck. I think it took them almost 4 hours before we were forced to help them. And I don't really count that one because we were at a point to where we were like, okay, you just need to get it. Like it's at a point of safety. Like we needed to get everything set because it was getting windy. So it was like, okay, we just gotta say screw it to this one part. So I'm not counting that. Doing everything else, the second night they were basically crying to us because they couldn't get their stoves working and just stuff wasn't happening. And we were like, okay, so you're actually going to start listening to us. And we had a whole meeting about it, and that's when we were finally getting our respect back. And it's kind of ridiculous that we even had to do that, but sometimes people don't want to ask for help, and guys are especially bad at asking for help. So sometimes we got to be put in that situation to finally ask for help, and most times we still won't. And I mean, to be really honest, they technically still didn't, because we were being a little pretentious because we were finally over it. And the adults actually came and yelled at us to make us go help them, even though so our part of the plan was for them to come ask us for help. But again, like I said, we were being pretentious, and that's when this whole meeting happened, and they made us like make up and actually have to listen to each other. It was a very interesting time because we were also going through scoutmasters. Like we had one scoutmaster that he cheated on his wife, so like we had to kick him out. Just a whole bunch of stuff happened with a couple of other scoutmasters. Luckily we never had a predator scoutmaster, but we very much thought we did at 2 points actually. Funny enough, Boy Scouts was also where I got really big into Magic the Gathering. I mean, my brother was already into it. That's where I really found a lot of my friends, and I was also able to spread it to everyone from my brother, and we were able to get games going off of that, and we were able to connect outside of Boy Scouts and gain real friendship just through that one game. So that's another reason why Magic has a little bit of a special place in my heart, because I made a ton of friends off of it. I don't have pretty much any of them anymore, but that's because we all grew apart, and you know, that's what happens. One thing I definitely can respect in a way with Boy Scouts was merit badges, because there's, of course, it's like college classes. Like there's definitely the harder and more difficult badges, and those were mainly reserved for needing to get your Eagle Scout and stuff like that. But there were also easy badges, but I would still call them easy badges because some of them were still difficult. Like, you could not get the art badge just because you're really trash at art. I mean, art is subjective, but like, if you can't get your birdhouse to work together, but you really need to do that birdhouse, and you didn't get it done on like the last day of camp, you would have to then go home, make another birdhouse, and then bring it back. So it's like that kind of stuff. And one thing I wish they changed sooner, when you were 17, just about to age out, it was 17 for a long time, and then it became 15 or 16, where you could start teaching merit badges. And I wanted to do it so much sooner because a lot of times I was noticing a lot of our merit badge teachers were not that great at it because they weren't great at relating to us. And I was like, oh, I could totally do this. Like there was a bunch of different merit badges, even I did, where I was like, I could totally teach this. And I ended up doing that later. I think I did first aid and swimming. No, I'm not positive on that one. The camps were always fun, especially the summer camps. I was a big pussy in the beginning of Boy Scouts. I mean, who wasn't? I never really was without my parents. And Boy Scouts really forced me to be self-reliable, self-reliant. I had to get a lot of things done myself. I still needed some help on a lot of things, but honestly, Boy Scouts was really fun for me to get out and stuff like that. But I do not think anymore, or really at all, should it be held to the standard that it was. Like, honestly, getting your Eagle Scout doesn't really tell me actually anything. It tells me you were capable in getting a project together, but like, it's not actually that hard to fundraise and stuff like that. We just all look at it like it's hard because we can't imagine a teenager doing that. But then you like literally look at a high schooler. Do you know how many of them all have to fundraise to like do anything? It's really ridiculous that we look at Boy Scouts, even as special it is as it was. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts always should have been the same, and crew was just really weird to add. People should have just made friends while they were in Boy Scouts, even with the Girl Scouts, and there should have been more Girl Scout and Boy Scout events. I always thought that was ridiculous when we only ever interacted with Girl Scouts sometimes. I was like, shouldn't we be interacting more than we are? And, you know, it was a really interesting time. I think Boy Scouts taught me a lot, and would I do it over again? Fuck yeah. Because Boy Scouts, outside of the dumbass hierarchy, you can do anything as basically a quote-unquote base level person and have a ton of fun. You can learn everything you need just being a basic level scout, and you'll have a ton of fun in Boy Scouts. I think some things are rank based, like some merit badges and stuff, but overall, you can just participate in Boy Scouts and have a lot of fun. I wish there was a better alternative than there is now. I don't think Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts should exist anymore. It should just be some type of co-ed shit. You all do the same shit, and you should be able to choose whatever you want, whether together or separate. Honestly, separating boys and girls is really fucking ridiculous, and I don't know why we still fucking do it. It's honestly stupid. Like, there's no fucking reason. You're just teaching that you're both different, and there's no reason to do that. We're all the same people that should love each other, and separating each other is just fucking stupid. Now to do my little story about the high adventure camp, because honestly, it's pretty funny. I don't fully remember a lot of the details. I remember our practices were pretty interesting. We didn't really have a lot to worry about with the practice, but I know whenever we were finally asked about what level we could do, I was hearing a lot of people wanting to do medium or easy, and we had a meeting and I genuinely called everyone a pussy, because I was like, why do you want to do, we are going to one of the most expensive Boy Scout adventure camps and like the most highest rated. Why the fuck do you want to do the easiest when you're only there for like a couple of days? So we ended up actually going for one of the harder ones, and we were there for 12 days. It was so much fun. When I say I want to go back, I really want to go back. If not, I want to find a place that does something similar and get a bunch of friends together. It would be so much fucking fun. So I'm gonna give basically some of the rough highlights of what I remember, of like little things that happened, and then I have a kind of idea on what happened in order, at least of what our activities are, but I don't remember a lot, if anything, other than that. We had a father and son who pissed us all off by day 6 or 7. Might have even been day 8, not gonna lie. And we almost, we joke about it because we totally wouldn't have done it, but we all were so considering pushing them off the fucking mountain because they decided to wear timber boots. After weeks of practicing in casual hiking boots, they bought steel-toe timbers to go hiking in, and then were complaining about blisters and stuff, to the point to where we all finally snapped. Well, everyone else tried to snap, but I know I'm bringing a lot around to me. I should be making a point that I do not and was not as totalitarian or whatever as I'm sounding. I just was very engaged in a lot of what I was doing. And in this instance, when I finally did snap, I had been carrying a 150-pound pack up and down mountains for a couple of days at this point, and I had tried multiple times to off my pack to multiple people, because this is when it's not only a crash out on them, but a crash out on the whole group. I was getting help from literally no one. No one was taking any of the pots and pans off my back. No one was taking any of the food off my back. And we know it was 150 pounds, by the way, because we had to weigh our packs before we went on. And I also weighed myself before we got there, and so I knew how much weight I was in fact carrying at that point, because I knew how much my bag was before it went on. We had to do all this weight to make sure for the airplane, so we didn't have to additionally send our bags. We finally get there to a point to where I just kirked the fuck out on them, and I was like, we had all this stuff planned, you knew what was going on. Why in the fuck are you telling us right now that you are not prepared when we prepared multiple times? Why the fuck has no one been helping me? And that's when everyone was like, well, we tried to offer, and I looked at the rest of them, and I was like, no, you fucking haven't. Don't fucking say it. Don't say you've tried to help me, and just all this stuff kind of came out. And that's when everyone finally took stuff out of my pack, and we looked at them and we were like, the next place we go to, you're either throwing away those boots and just unfortunately walking with your sandals, or you're leaving at that next spot. And they threw away their boots and kept walking in what was supposed to be their camp sandals, so you needed your boots and then your camp shoes. This was one of the best trips I probably ever had with Boy Scouts. I lost about 60 pounds, and I know that seems really crazy for a 12-day trip, but I went to the doctors afterwards because we noticed how much weight I lost. Like, even though it was definitely a good thing, I used to be 300 pounds, by the way. I used to be a supreme fat ass. I was worried with why I lost so much weight. And they were like, oh yeah, you had your growth spurt because it was happening in between me leaving middle school and high school. And so I just growth spurted while also literally lifting weight all day, every day, and going up hills and shit. So I just like naturally lost a shitload of weight. So it was almost like war training in a way. Like, I just lost a shitload of weight just because I was actively doing stuff all the time. I fully regret not keeping my weight down for years, because I used to be like actually pretty skinny, and then I got emotional, ate the weight back. But we also had 2 rainstorms, and we were high enough in the fucking mountains that we were inside both of them. The first one was only bad enough to where it felt like we were inside a Category 3 hurricane, but luckily the tent we were under somehow still stayed together, despite literally so much water coming down that if you stuck your hand out from underneath of the tent, you could hardly see it anymore. Like, literally, that's how much rain was going down. It was literally like sheets of fucking water. It was crazy. And then the other one, which happened later, that first one happened our 3rd or 4th day, because our guide was just about to leave, or he had left. But this next one caused us to lose out on the best part of our trip. We were supposed to see their tallest mountain, but because it rained so much, we were basically told, hey, it's going to be too slippery for you to walk around on that rock. So we advise, and especially with the winds, you to not go there, so we lost out on that. But this second rainstorm was so bad, it was actually a thunderstorm, and we all got to experience we're getting hit by lightning, feels like. We all had to go out into the middle of this clearing and literally go down, you know, the blocking lightning position, and we got to watch, well, at least I did, I got to watch a tree explode. It was about, and this is how far lightning travels on the ground, just by the way. So about 65 to 75 feet, like behind someone that was in front of me is where this tree explodes at, because that's where the lightning hits, and we all feel it through the ground, like to the point to where, you know, in shows and stuff where they have like a field around them, I swear to God, we all felt like we were electrified for a while, and I felt like there was shit flowing around me. It was very scary. We basically had to take all of our metal off and go throw it away from us, and that's why we had to go stand in the field. Some of us, not naming names, still had a little bit of metal on them, and that is the theory on why most of us still felt like we got shocked, is because we still had a little bit of metal on us. And then same day, something later that happened right after this thunderstorm, it's when we're coming down the other part of this mountain. We're going to musket shooting, which I'll talk about in a hot sec. We were all just trying to find a spot to go to the bathroom, and we finally found one. We were told to keep in a bigger buddy system this time because the woods were so dense. They wanted to make sure we were in some kind of a group. So we all go to find the bathroom, and someone was whittling because they, you know, finished going to the bathroom, so we didn't have anything to do. We didn't have our phones or anything. So he's whittling, and dipshit cuts open his leg right where I think it's called the femoral artery, the one that's in your thigh, the one that if it cut, you're dead, like there is no saving you. He was apparently like that far away into his leg, like the veins like over here, like that's how far in he went. He was luckily still good enough to keep going out. It was very scary to the point to where my dad literally looked at me, because my dad's former Army, his dad's former Marines. He basically looked at me and he was like, you should go get his dad before he beats his ass later. And I was like, I'm going to use this opportunity to finally cuss to my scoutmaster, because his dad was the scoutmaster. And I walk up to this guy and I'm like, hey sir, I'm gonna need you to come with me real quick. And he's like, what happened? I was like, well, your dumbass son cut his leg open. Or I said, your son cut his leg open. Yes, that's what I said. I said, your son cut his leg open, and I wanted to, you know, let you know about that before you beat his ass later. And he's like, well, take me to him. Like, that's literally what he says. He's like, well, that makes sense. And actually, just before that, right as we were coming down, so we already had one, so it's kind of funny that it was even me that came to say it, because I was the first injury before this happened. I sliced my whole arm all the way up from literally right before my elbow all the way up here. It wasn't terribly deep. It was bad enough to where I had like blood going down my arm, and it was all because I'm walking down the mountain and I grabbed a branch, because I literally almost slid down the whole mountain, but I caught myself with this branch. And of course, you know, adrenaline, I didn't even feel it, so I'm still walking down, and that's when all of a sudden, we're in the group, and someone just sees blood going down onto the ground, and they're like, hey man, you're bleeding. Pull it back, and that's when we see it. And, you know, I was okay. Like I said, it wasn't terribly deep. It was just the fact that it happened that I was like, oh, great. One of our little comedy things that we wanted to happen not happen after we were told about it, which is the joke of the Pooh Bear, or the flaming Pooh Bear. So basically, there were bears in these mountains, and sometimes they fall into the latrine. And if you don't know this, concentrated urine and fecal matter is very flammable, and bears are already pretty flammable in general. So if you leave your camp running, they can potentially fall into it. Now you got a flaming Pooh Bear. It would have been terrible for that to happen, but we all were just at some point so tired and shit that we were just like, it could happen right now, just kill us. We only had a guide for about 2 to 3 days. They were just to get you basically acclimated to things and help you make sure things were okay. Ours was pretty cool until he told us about cleaning the pans, and this is when I felt really connected to my whole group, because he talks about cleaning. This guy has not washed his hands, has firmly done multiple things that would make you want to also gag as well, but we talk about cleaning and he's like, yeah, you got to get the rest out. And even I'm like, you can see it on my face because I'm remembering him doing it. I'm starting to gag right now. Is he takes his hand and he goes in, he just starts scooping it out and eating it, and I'm like, nah man, like not for me. I think I could do it now because I don't give that much of a fuck now, but I have to be doing it. I can't watch someone do it. And I think that's probably what his mentality too, because I think I'm the same age as that guy was now. Like, I don't give that much of a shit. I would do it now, but watching someone do it, that's fucking disgusting. And the fact that it was chicken Alfredo too, it was just... Now, the last kind of funny thing that I'll mention before I start going into the activities is I was the chaplain's aide for our group, and this is one of the funnier things for me to remember because I also was the chaplain's aide for my old private school, and it's just very funny to think about like how anti-religion, or at least more spiritual I am now, when I used to do all this like chaplain's aid stuff and things like that. And even at this time, it's really kind of funny. I didn't even fully believe in Christianity at this point. I was agnostic at this point, so it was really funny. Oh, yes, I remember why. I know why. I remember exactly why now I wanted to do it. It's because I didn't want anyone else to try and say some long-ass fucking prayer. I wanted to make sure I could control how long the prayers were going to be, so I didn't have to listen to people just saying a whole bunch of wackadoo shit. The first event we went to, which was the one where we had our first rainstorm at, we were trying to do skeet, and we also loaded shells. Now that was the actual fun part in my opinion. I could sit there and rack shells for hours. It's super fun. I think it's just because it's simple, mind-numbingly easy, that's why I like it. I could do it while I'm, watching a movie or something. But skeet is only fun, in my opinion, when you are playing it with someone else as competitive as you. But because everyone else there hadn't shot skeet, I purposefully, and got even more lucky, I kept sitting it out. Not just because I hated the pressure of getting hit with a 12 gauge, kickback. They didn't have a lefty, I think, because I'm left-hand dominant. Well, I'm left-eye dominant. They didn't have a lefty, or I just didn't want to go up for a while because no one else was... It was just training, and I was like, I don't want to fucking do that. I'll just sit back here. And then I got lucky because the rain came down and I didn't have to go and do it. The next thing we went to was where I did my first ever mountain climbing, and the thing I'm actually way more impressed with was when I got to rappel down. Oh my god, I could rappel down forever. That was so much more fun than actually climbing up it, because I was jumping and just basically like swinging down, and they told me to stop, and it made me mad. I was like, this is so much fun, and they're like, yeah, but you could hurt yourself. And I was like, I don't care if my face smacks into the rock. And they're like, we care. So I didn't do that. But I did end up going to, they had a rock climbing little training area, and I ended up spending like 4 or 5 hours just in there climbing and talking with the other instructors about nothing. I think I've always liked climbing more than I think I did. It's just, I'm very scared of unsafe heights. Like, I have to be extremely secured to be willing to do shit. Otherwise, my fear just shoots up. And I think that's why I like flying so much, is because I would be able to save myself. Then and I could be wrong about where this is, but we went to a horseback riding camp, and I loved it so much. I love horseback riding already, but man, did I love horseback riding so much growing up. I wish I could own a horse farm. It was just so much fun riding around, and I also got to teach more people. I actually was asked at a couple of points to help with instructing. I just really like horseback riding. It's a lot of fun. It definitely feels a lot more freeing than riding around in a car. Then we did a fly fishing event, and this was my second time making my own fly, because they wanted to do that before they sent you out there. Making your own fly is so fun. I could do that as a straight up hobby. If I had like a little desk, I could sit there and just make fly after fly, because they're little creatures you're essentially making, and they're just so adorable. And even though you're using them to get fish, like, you can still, like, you could put one of those flies like on you as a thing. They're like just little creatures you can make. We also had a forestry day where we basically just learned about trees and forestry and stuff like that. I've always had a personal interest in forestry just because I like nature and stuff like that, but I don't know if I could ever like do it for a job or even a hobby, like going and researching trees and stuff. And then after the forestry thing is when we did the musket shooting that I was telling about. Shooting muskets is a lot of fun, but oh my god, does it hurt more than shooting a 50 cal. Maybe that's because I had different, muscle density at the time, but I shot a 50 cal when I was a lot younger than I was here, and it still hurt way more. I don't know. I think it's because it's just straight wood. I don't know. Then the next day we went to a tree climbing place where we not only did a flag carrying ceremony where we set up the flags and stuff. Oh yeah, that's what we did. We did the flag ceremony first, and then we did this tree climbing thing. And it was a lot of fun. But my dad's a really bad pep talker, so of course, right as I'm getting to the top, I'm having a little bit of an issue, and instead of just, letting me figure it the fuck out, he continues arguing with me. We spent literally 5 minutes having like this gentle argument before, right as I slipped the last time, I just look at my dad and I'm like, can you shut the hell up? I knew I shouldn't have said it, so I immediately was like, hey, I didn't mean that, and he understood because he's done the same thing. He hates tree climbing just about as much as I do, but man, is it really frustrating when you're essentially working with 2 hook spikes and someone's trying to tell you how to work them. I'm trying not to stab myself right now. Can you shut the fuck up and let me do it? And then we got to try genuine root beer at a next site. They literally made it in front of you. And we also spent that time playing with goats. They had goats there. And it was just a really interesting space. I really liked New Mexico. I definitely liked the vibe of New Mexico. I've considered moving back to New Mexico a couple of times. The only reason I haven't or really done it is because New Mexico is very much in the middle of nowhere, and I don't know if I want to go that in the middle of nowhere. Then we had our hike out finally, and there was a bonfire that night, and that's when we all got our phones back. And basically, like, none of us were on our phones. It was really interesting how we all just still wanted to connect and talk more than we wanted to be on our phones. We finally wake up the next day, and we have basically a whole day to kill because we're not supposed to be going back until later or whatnot. Or maybe this was when we got back from our hike. I can't exactly remember that space. But we went to this authentic Mexican restaurant, and I loved their food. But we had also been eating prepackaged food for multiple days. All I remember is I tried every sauce they had there, and just about every selection of meat they had there. Wrapping up that trip, we get back on the plane. I had pretty much not slept at this point. We got back to camp, and I think I was just way too adrenaline rushed by everything, because I was actually kind of upset that I was even leaving, because I was having so much fun there. And my dad always wanted me to have like fun out in the wilderness, and I was having that teen angst moment like I was talking about in the previous video. Like, I just really felt like I kind of had my place there and stuff like that. It was a very interesting moment. But we finally get to our airplanes, and I only slept on the plane. It was really funny how I just would like robot mode, go to the next plane, sleep, go to the next one, sleep, and then finally get home. And I don't think I slept properly for like a couple of days because of my weird sleep schedule. But my mom's first words as she picks my dad and us up, not after asking everything, but is, Robin Williams killed himself the other day. Yeah, this was just around the time that happened. My mom's first words were, Robin Williams unalived himself. And I was like, Mother, what the fuck? Robin Williams was and is always my favorite actor. My favorite movie is Mrs. Doubtfire. Like, I'll do a video on that one day, but it was very much a train wreck for me after that. I spent like days playing video games, just being by myself. Like I said before, I recommend Boy Scouts to people, but I really think there should be something new, just something co-ed where boys and girls and anyone in between can all hang out and they can learn these cool wildernessy skills, personal skills, and everyone can just get together and feel connected instead of everyone feeling separate and only meeting through school and stuff like that. People can actually meet and gather and gain a community. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, review, and story, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace, guys.